Then we've got shopping, the car, the deal. Image and feeling here. So this is the first time image has come into play. So now that you've honed in on that car, you've done your test drive, and you know which vehicle you're buying, you then kind of do a sanity check, if you like, of is this car really right for me? How are other people going to perceive me driving this particular vehicle? You're now 6.6 months into the journey, and you're down to that one brand, that one model. In order to do that sanity check, you actually go through a lot of devices. This is sort of the frequency here, and as you can see, the whole repertoire. In Spain, 32% of people, Spanish consumers, actually said that they were wanting to be able to use gaming consoles to actually experience driving a vehicle, for example. The partner, travelling, etc., still very important, but sort of less in weight now that you know that the car you want. You're spreading it across all devices and just sort of sanity checking across a number of sites. You'll see the percentages also in terms of car comparison sites, manufacturer sites, car ratings. There's still sort of the predominant drivers, but the percentages are lower than what we had previously. So it's more of a broader range of tools and tactics used just to make sure that you've made that right decision. So in terms of needs, this is all about actually reflecting that choice that you've made and making sure that you've done the right thing. Finance obviously comes into play here. I know which car I want, I know which spec I want, am I sure I can afford it? And therefore things like a lending tree, so sharing data with dealers around the particular vehicle that you're looking at and what the latest deals are would be really useful for a consumer. Location-based links to dealer, which kind of give you reviews on that dealership as well, is also useful to a consumer. Other things consumer was saying was, I'd love to scan on my mobile the barcode of a particular vehicle in a dealership, similar to a supermarket, and know if there were any dealerships in the vicinity that had the same model, the same spec as I was looking at, cheaper. So either have it as a negotiation point for the dealer I'm in, or I think it's worth travelling 10 kilometres to another dealership because I know I can get it for €1,000 cheaper, €500 cheaper. So any data here to really kind of help them be smart in that negotiation is seen as highly appreciated. When we get into the ownership, one of the key things that really, as marketeers, we should be looking to optimise is not only building somebody's confidence in the brand that they've bought, but for them to proactively advocate that brand. And what we found with Spanish consumers, again as an area of opportunity, that actually there's quite a lot of advocacy already going on. 47%, that is double what it is in the UK, and a third higher than what it is in the US. So there's huge opportunities, I believe, in kind of increasing the toolkits available for people so that they can very easily share stuff about the car that they've bought, become a fan, review that dealership so that it helps other consumers in that decision process. There's also a level of personalisation that goes on. 1 in 5 Spanish consumers are connecting their smartphones to their vehicles within the first few months of purchase. So again, going back to that technology expectation, people do want to utilise their other platforms and technology and kind of integrate that into their vehicle and their sort of experience. At the experience stage, you're playing in all 3 emotions and you want all 3 boxes to be ticked. As I say, this is kind of the moment of truth. Does it live up to expectations in terms of the performance and the functionality? When I'm driving that vehicle, does it really feel as good as I was hoping it would feel? Is it as responsive as I felt? And am I getting positive feedback from my friends, from my families? Are my neighbours noticing me in my new vehicle? And are they validating my choice for me? That's a really important part of this to build confidence, is what you get back from consumers as well as what you are able to tell consumers. In terms of devices, the laptop, the desktop, the smartphone are coming up as sort of the three key platforms. TV is still there. You like to see ads about the vehicle you've just bought. It still kind of adds to it. But in terms of getting information and validation for your choice, the digital platforms are kind of leading here. Partner, again, you listen to. Your dad comes into play here, particularly amongst the male audience in the dealership stage and the ownership stage, but around sort of 18%. If you're commuting to work, sort of the workplace and sort of travelling kind of coming as well. What we did find about this stage is people would were far more likely to read up about tools and tactics to use that vehicle digitally than rather in a paper form manual. They would go to the manufacturer website to get that information. And my suggestion there is probably around, when you get a manual, you get a manual for the whole suite of that particular vehicle. So if you've got a manual for Ford Fiesta, it will have every model of Ford Fiesta, whether it's the titanium, the Z-Tech, etc., within that manual. A consumer doesn't want to know the specifications and what the things that a car that they couldn't afford, or the next one up, does. In fact, that makes them feel a bit bad about their choice. They only want to know what their car gives them and the positives about that. And I think there is an opportunity there in the digital space to give that extra level of personalisation, so that to them gets delivered on their phone or through their digital devices is just why those wheels are so good, the spec of that stereo system, why they've got tinted windows, etc., etc. So that the spec that they've got is delivered to them and nothing else. So in terms of needs here, it's all about encouraging that ongoing communication with the manufacturer, encouraging people to really validate their choice and inspire others about that brand. So I think it's about getting that closer linkage with reviews through social networking, perhaps having a sort of Pinterest for cars, but creating a community of owners to support new buyers, if you like. If you know that somebody a few streets away has also bought a new vehicle in the last few months, it could encourage conversations between them to better understand that vehicle and how to get the best out of that vehicle, rather than have to go back to a dealer that they believe is perhaps more of a salesperson versus going to give them an independent view. I also think it's an opportunity for dealerships to change. As we said, at the moment, the dealership is very much at sort of the end of the journey. But as we see in that next stage, only 31% of Spanish consumers are saying they would love to buy a car directly online without no dealer involvement. So 69% still want dealership involvement. They still want that personal piece within that. So for me, it's around how do we make that not only where you try and negotiate the best deal and go off with your car, how do we make the dealer far more of an information source, a drop-in centre that you could kind of come to at any point to ask a question and not feel obligated to have to buy a new car, for example. How do you keep those levels of communication open so it's not only when your car goes wrong that you go back to the dealer, or if you want to buy a new car, but you can kind of get updates about the vehicle, perhaps by additions at a later stage versus having to buy it all up front. Other things of interest here, of course, digital tools and tactics are kind of continuing to drive people's future needs. So we've got a website here where you enter specific requirements and local dealers basically bid for your business and show you the best deals. So that you don't have to do that work, they're kind of doing it for you. car comparison sites we talked about and scanning, so you can kind of get that.